I'm a big believer that way too many real estate salespeople try and advertise before they know how to be a salesperson. Invest in your education and become a master salesperson before you start trying to make it rain.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Smart Agents Podcast. My name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. On today's episode, we are joined by Andrew Duncan, founder and CEO of the Duncan Duo team. Based in Tampa, Florida, the Duncan Duo finished 2020 with $257 million in volume and roughly 900 sales. Throughout our conversation, Andrew talks all about advertising on and hosting a weekly radio show and how that has grown his business. We also talk about the marketing he does with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, before we get into the day's featured interview, make sure you follow and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Also, as you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Click the bell to get notifications for each new episode. And lastly, if you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story to share, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always looking for new stories to feature. All right, so on to the day's featured interview, where again, we chat with Andrew Duncan, founder and CEO of the Duncan Duo.
So pretty much the way I usually like to start these out is if you could just tell me about kind of a little bit of your background in the industry, where you're at and stuff.
Yeah, so I got licensed in 2005, got really started in real estate in 2006. Back when things were going crazy busy, but just before they started to go bad. And I had been a sales rep for a Fortune 500 company out of St. Petersburg. I'd traveled the West Coast for about 5 years. So I was a road warrior and I was just tired of it. 2 weeks a month of travel was just too much for me. So I got my real estate license after, meeting and kind of networking. I bought some investment properties and I thought, man, I could do that job. My real estate agent was driving a Mercedes-Benz and I thought, yeah, that sounds good to me. So I had done well in my prior career. I had put some money away so that I was able to kind of survive the ups and downs of that first couple of years. And after the first couple of years, I really started, discovering new ways to advertise. I was working with friends and family and, started to kind of grow. At the same time, my wife had become tired of her job with Bank of America. And so she left and joined me. So that's kind of when I would say we officially became the Duncan Duo in about 2008. And we both fired each other a lot and had a lot of frustrating nights, but worked together to really grow. And I would say our growth really started about 2009 to 10. I think we had 100 sales for the first time. And then, through the last decade, we've doubled it a few times and 257 million in volume last year, about 900 sales with a goal of over 1,000 this year. So obviously lots of learning mistakes through that decade, but a lot of great times too.
Right. And I want to touch on later on about that idea of, kind of having that little nest egg for the tough times.
Yeah.
It's like that is something that so many people don't do, and it's super important. But I want to touch on that in a little bit. Tell me about, so the business, how you've built it and grown it over these years.
So that year we had done 100 sales. Our average sale price was $92,000. So we were selling wheel estate, as friends of mine like to say. And we started doing a lot of short sales. So at that time, short sales were kind of the market of the moment. And we learned how to do them. A lot of agents in our office didn't want to touch them. So we kind of took those on to help people, get through and avoid foreclosure. And obviously picked up buyers and kind of grew through that, hired a real estate coach. And that's when we really made a strong investment where we kind of stepped out on a limb and made investments into advertising and marketing. We said, you know what, if we don't make any money this year, we're going to be okay because we have money put away. But if we're going to grow this, we've got to feed it. We've got to generate leads. We've got to become a rainmaker. And so we started investing in radio, and it started with radio. And obviously, in addition to that, doing, buying internet leads and doing all the things I think a lot of other people are doing, but no one in our market was really advertising on radio. So we started that and then branched off to more and more stations, then added TV, did more and more TV stations, then added billboard. And now, aligning with sports teams, doing some other large scale advertising. Our advertising budget from a percentage standpoint is still very comparable to what it was in the beginning as far as our revenue goes. It's just a much bigger number today because of a higher revenue number.
Right. And that's just all part of the scaling. But you, so starting out in the radio, how did that kind of come about? How did you build that relationship?
So for us, we had a media agent at the time that had approached us about advertising on radio and using celebrity endorsements. A lot of top agents have done it. And at the time, no one in our market was doing it. And we felt like no one really knew who we were. We were pretty young. I still had a limiting belief about my age, that the top agents in my market were all much older than I was. And so we needed, I needed something to satisfy my own limiting belief, but I also needed something to kind of differentiate us and make us stand out. So we started with that, and it worked pretty quickly. We started getting leads and business from it. It branded us pretty well with celebrity endorsers, and then obviously grew to more and more of those and more stations, kind of over the years. I was always a believer that I didn't want to do too many things at once, because I felt like if I think real estate agents are notorious for going to conferences and buying like everything and coming home and using none of it. And I didn't want to make that mistake. So my goal was, each time I'd introduce a lead generation strategy, I'd want to master it before I'd add another one. And so, for example, with radio, I said, okay, now that we're on one station with one personality during just a couple hour block a day, so the next step is let's be in every hour of the day. And then the step after that was let's go to another station with another, and kind of keep growing it that way organically, instead of doing too many things at once and breaking us. I wanted to grow at a rapid pace, but a pace that wouldn't cause us to be unable to properly serve the agents that join us or the customers. So, but the radio for us it was funny, because probably about, I would say, the first couple of weeks, we weren't getting too many calls. And one of the very first calls was actually somebody that had a trailer like out in the boonies, out in East Hillsboro. And I thought to myself, man, if this is going to be what we're going to get all the time, man, I don't know if this is going to work. And probably 3 months in, we were in it, I would say at that point, we'd probably spent maybe $12,000. And I was pretty nervous about it, because we didn't have a return on investment at that point. And probably right about that time, Angela and I thought, maybe we should just pull out of this. And I remember at the time we both said, you know what, most people fail because they quit too soon. So let's give it a little bit longer. And sure enough, it wasn't too long before the phone started ringing and we started listing a lot of houses from our radio ads.
Yeah. And now from the radio ads, you actually have a show. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. We do a radio show on a local AM station on Sunday mornings at 10. Been doing that a decade. We a little over a decade. So it was crazy this past year. I remember looking, because we keep a copy of all the shows, and we'd done over our 500 shows, and I just couldn't even imagine. I remember the very first time I did a show, I had like all these notes written out, and now I've done it so many times, and I pull up a few websites, I've got a few talking points, and you talk for an hour about something you do every day, and it doesn't take too long. Right.
So, I mean, it really is one of those things, like once you do it enough, the preparation for it's something that you're doing. It's part of your everyday life. So just talk about it.
It's easy, and I think that one of the things I really enjoyed about the radio show in the beginning, it prepared me for doing things like this, because I wasn't comfortable with it. I wasn't afraid. I've always been outgoing. So I wasn't necessarily intimidated to get in front of people and talk. But I think the fact that I had to talk about real estate every Sunday for an hour, I think it made it a whole lot easier for me to present to customers, but also to present to agents thinking of joining us. It just made me a much more comfortable public speaker.
Right. And I really like that, what you just said about having agents join you. This is just a way that kind of shows those agents that you're targeting to bring into your team. Like,
right.
Look, we're everywhere. We're going to, like, how much was that part of your strategy?
It totally was, because, similar to, any marketer, the whole idea of content creation, because when we look at what we're doing from an advertising perspective, every year we evaluate and say, okay, how can we grow? How can we grow revenue? How can we grow profit? And there's a few different ways to do it. And obviously more leads, better price point leads, charging more, and then obviously having more salespeople. And so for us, it became, very it was very much a part of the conversation that we knew we were generating a massive amount of leads, and for us to serve those people, we didn't have enough salespeople to communicate and stay on top of them enough, and we're losing revenue because we didn't have enough people to communicate with the leads. So, for us, it does help, and I would guess that a large percentage of the people who listen to my show on Sunday are probably real estate people. So they're listening to say, is this somebody that I would enjoy working, for, or whose company I would enjoy working at.
Right. And hey, you know what? If that's going to help bring in people that help your bottom line, that's great.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it's informative too, because it keeps them up to date on what's going on in the industry. And, I really push a lot of our agents to make sure if they don't listen to it on Sundays to, listen to it when we stream it out or podcast it on iHeart's website, just so they can stay up to date on what I'm talking about. Because we'll have people call us, and I'll have agents be like, hey, they're calling about this. It's like, well, you should have listened to the show and you know what they're talking about. So not everybody can listen to it, but it's important for our company, to stay on top of what I'm talking about, because it is going to generate inquiries from people.
Right. And then I also really like how you take that one show and you distribute it on so many different platforms. I see you cut bits of it out and put it on Instagram. So it's not the actual content creation part of it is still the one time, but the distributing is
correct. Yeah. And I think that's a phenomenon that we really started working on in the last year or so. We wanted to take more of the show and get it into the other formats, because we weren't doing a good enough job of it. And I recognized that. So I felt that while I couldn't expect that the average consumer would listen to the entire hour on Sundays, if I could carve out, a minute or a 2-minute little excerpt from it and put it on social media or put it out in an email blast, share with our team, then it would be still using the 1 hour that I blocked to create that as a way to generate, inquiries, impressions, all those things.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and it's taking that time investment that you put into that initial show and extending the life of it too, which is
no doubt.
That's great. What, so one of the other really cool things that, just stuck out to me when I stumbled upon you guys on Instagram was your partnership with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
It's
I
really
lived
cool
in Tampa for a while. And so it was,
I actually have the All-Star game polo on today from when the All-Star game was here at Amalie Arena. And so it was kind of interesting how it happened. We own, in addition to owning the real estate company, we own some affiliated companies, including an insurance agency and a title company. And our title company partner had gotten a call from the Lightning, and this is, I think, 6 years ago, had gotten a call from the Lightning saying, hey, do you know anyone in real estate that might be interested in a kind of an advertising partnership with the team? He's like, oh, I know just the guy. And so he introduced me to a contact at the Lightning who did know who we were, who'd seen our other advertising and stuff. And it was just kind of a match made in heaven, a winning team that our community had gotten behind. A terrific owner that's super charitable and does so much great for Tampa. It's growing Tampa Bay. And so we dove right in, and we've been with them 6 years now. We just renewed again for a few weeks ago prior to the season starting for this year. And it's cool because, we obviously have marketing exposure within the games and the games on TV, games in person and all that. But then getting to interact with the players, getting to work with people from the team and players and stuff is just a really cool thing. I just love hockey players. They're super genuine, very humble. I mean, some of these guys make, $7-10 million a year, and they just act like, like a guy from, just some dude from Canada, and so I just love working with them. It's a great group of guys, and it's no surprise to me seeing the growth of the organization, seeing some of the players kind of come up through the organization that they won the Stanley Cup, because it really is about the culture. It's throughout their whole organization. It isn't just the hockey players, but their entire organization buys into their culture, and it's just blatantly clear. They're going to be winning for a long time to come.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you look at like the Steven Stamkos. I mean, these are guys that got drafted. A good team has the people that were drafted with them, and they kind of grew them. So it kind of sounds, and that's kind of seems like that's really kind of congruent with your business too. You grow up the team through your training.
Yeah, we have multiple people that have been with me 10 years, which is pretty remarkable. There's a lot of turnover in the real estate industry, and a lot of real estate teams like ours struggle to keep talented people because the people decide, okay, well, I can do better on my own, or I want to go out on my own. And we have a lot of people that stay because they do the math. They say, look how well I'm doing. It doesn't make sense for me to take the risk that it might take me 3 to 4 years to get back to where I'm at. And I'd rather just keep growing with what they're doing. And so very similar to what I consider Steven Stamkos or Nikita Kucherov taking a kind of a team-friendly deal in some instances. Maybe they could go out and do better on their own, but they like winning. They like being part of a winning culture. And, they buy into that team concept. And so a lot of congruence between the Lightning and our organization. And I think, again, it's also something that, in addition to all the marketing avenues, it's something we're able to bless our clients with. So we give tickets away to games. We give all kinds of merchandise. We do signings with players. We do meet and greets with players, not during COVID, because that's a whole different animal, but it'll come back. So we've got to meet, not just us, but many of our clients have gotten to meet a lot of the players, a lot of the even Hall of Famers from the organization that aren't playing anymore. So it's something that, from a marketing perspective, gets us repeat and referral business because of those experiences that we get to share with our clients.
Right. I saw a bunch of testimonial videos. It looked like it was in the box, or in the.
Yeah, we do that. So we do an event, and again, same thing. We didn't get to this year because of COVID, but we do an event every year at the arena where our clients get to go, and it's generally during the holidays. Our clients get to go ice skating on the Amalie ice. It's fully catered and with food. There's generally a player or two there, and Thunderbug and the Lightning Girls, and we do giveaways of all kinds of signed stuff and tickets. And we have a little booth for people to give testimonials, at the event. So that's a cool thing for us to be able to not just capture that information from our customers, but share something that they couldn't just get on their own. Besides, a handful of companies that have that kind of access.
Right. Well, and it just advertising with a sporting organization is so awesome because their fan bases, if they see you guys and you're associated with them, they are loyal people, and they're going to be loyal to you too.
Yeah. And the cool part is we're fans too. Angela and I mean, we wear our Duncan Duo Lightning jerseys, and we go to a lot of games. We don't get to every one of them, but if we're not at a game, then someone from our company is in our seats. We take clients to the games. And I'm looking forward to, February hitting and us being able to go back in person again. But I think they can tell that we're, when they see us jumping and screaming at the games, that we're not just an advertising partner of Lightning. We're just as much a, super fan as they are. And, we get to, the cool part about being a partner is you get to do things that other people don't get to do, but we like to share that with our people and our clients and allow them to get to do things, especially some of the fans that are customers of ours, to be able to get them to meet players and do things like that is just, for me, I pinch myself sometimes about how cool it is.
Yeah. And just tell me, I think it's so important to, when you are advertising with somebody and you are partnering, is to be involved with it. And it's not just somewhere where you go and put your face out there, your name on there, but to really be involved in it.
Well, and you make a really good point, because I've heard real estate agents say things like, I'll give a few examples. Zillow doesn't work, or radio doesn't work, or TV doesn't work. And most of the time it's because they simply clicked submit on a website and expected magic to happen. They expected them to give someone a credit card and leads to rain out of the sky. Like a miracle, and then they didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't build out a good profile on Zillow. They didn't go get reviews. They didn't put their past sales on there. Or radio, they didn't build a relationship with the station and take them out to lunch and learn about them, to not just get business from radio, but from the company that airs the ads, from the personalities on radio. It's all, if you're going to spend money somewhere, you need to get involved. You need to stay active. And so similarly, Angela and I, I think the past 5 years, we started our own foundation, and we're very, we give back a lot. But I always said that I didn't just want to give money to a charity. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to give money and time And I think the same has to be said for most things you do. If you're not succeeding at something you're spending money on, don't just go right to blaming the place that you're spending money with, because a lot of times you have to look in the mirror and figure out what you're doing wrong with the money that you're spending and that relationship in order to maximize it to get a return.
Right. What would you, for, people that are kind of starting out or they're just starting their team, where would you say for them to kind of, because their budgets are obviously smaller. There's a lot on the line. Where would you say, for them to kind of start out at? What kind of avenues to start looking at?
And it's really tough. Like I started radio a decade ago and it was cheaper, and now with politics and so many other things, it's gotten more and more expensive to do radio, TV, and billboards. So it is extremely hard for anyone that's not a massive producer to look at those places to invest and say, okay, I'm going to go, and advertise, because they either don't have enough repetition or broadcast enough of a purchase for it to make sense. Or they don't do it long enough for it to start working because they're nervous. It's a big investment. So that's generally something that I don't recommend people do until they're into 300 or 400 units at today's prices, because of the cost. It's gotten more expensive to compete. Many more advertisers are competing. The large iBuyers are competing for that space. So the first recommendation that I always have, if you're looking to advertise, is the free and cheap stuff. Craigslist ads, doing open houses with lots of signs, like 30, 40, 50 signs at an open house, which sounds crazy. The more signs you have, the more impressions that is, the more people will either show up or remember you from the massive amount of signs that you put out. And I think that I'm a big believer that way too many real estate salespeople try and advertise before they know how to be a salesperson. Invest in your education and become a master salesperson before you start trying to make it rain. Because far too many people say, oh, well, I got my license a month ago, I'm going to start spending a bunch of money on advertising. But they don't spend the money in educating themselves to become a great salesperson. They handle objections, to do a proper presentation, to get coaching. They try and spend money, and they may generate the leads, but they don't have any idea how to handle it or how to convert it. So before you start spending money on leads, I would make sure that you're a master salesperson first. Right.
Well, because, you blow that, something gets you all derailed, and it takes a long time to build up your brand. It is so fast to destroy it. And
and I think, and again, I see it happen a lot where people will say, I did 9 deals this year, and now this year I want to do 50. Well, the difference between doing 9 and 50 probably isn't the number of leads you're doing. It's probably what you're doing with the leads you're getting. So hiring a coach, going through some extra training, some coaching, finding a mentor, and finding ways to improve your skill set, your presentation, to improve your conversion percentage. Because I hear people all the time say, I need more leads. And then you see that they're converting such a drastically low percentage of leads they get. The issue isn't the leads. The issue is them. It's their inability to convert, their inability to build rapport, their inability to recognize someone that's a different personality profile, how to communicate with them. All those things really matter when you start looking at it. And to me, that's something that, the sprinkling lead generation on it is something that I think you do after you become a master salesperson. I was fortunate that I got into real estate after a 5-year stint in a very professional presentation sales environment. So I already had a lot of the skill set. A lot of people that get into real estate have no sales background. So they think they know what they're doing, and a lot of times they don't. And they think the issue is the number of leads, and it's generally not. It's probably more the skill set.
Right. So would you say, really for these newer agents to look for the brokers that offer the training? I mean, there's brokers
and teams that are like ours that do a lot of training that really monitor all the numbers, because they're going to make sure you convert because of how much they're spending. They're going to hold you accountable, and you need that. I hear people say all the time, I want to get a real estate for freedom. Well, you're going to be broke because you're going to rely on that freedom, and you're not going to get out there and grind. So the reality is you need the coaching and accountability if you don't have a sales background. If you're jumping into real estate and you don't have any sales background, you're behind the 8 ball, because not only do you have to figure out how to generate the business, but now you've got to figure out how to be a salesperson. So I think the best path for people without sales experience is to go to organizations that are already generating the leads. They're providing the leads for you, so you don't have to master that. Someone else can do it for you. And then you just focus on becoming the best salesperson you can be, and then eventually go do your own thing. But there's no question that too many people try to do too much at the beginning. They try and become the master salesperson, the master lead generator, the master contract negotiator, all at the same time, and they end up being a jack of nothing.
Right. Well, before wrapping up, I do want to touch back on what you said earlier about, kind of making sure that you have that little nest egg to, because the real estate's up and down. It's not, we're at a high right now, but it's not going to stay that way.
So many real estate agents, and I mean, I'm sure you can probably, post the statistics on this, but the failure rate for first year real estate agents, even when the market's hot, is excruciatingly high. And the biggest failure reason is because people run out of money. They don't put enough money away. They don't save enough before they jump in. And then they have what I call like commission mouth. Commission mouth is basically like when you jump into real estate and you need money and you start pushing people to make deals because you need the money, not because it's in their best interest. People can sense that. So you have to at least be comfortable enough to serve their interest and not come off like you're pushing them because you need a check when you first get in. So you need a little bit of a nest egg, a little bit of a nest egg put away. A lot of people don't prepare for that and or join the wrong company. You'll see people join companies because, the commission split is really high. Well, 100% of zero is still zero. If you don't get leads, if they don't teach you how to really generate leads, then you're going to fail. So you've got to either have a solid lead generation strategy, and have a good sales background to hit the ground running, or go somewhere that has a solid lead generation, platform and learn how to be a salesperson. I think those are two really important things that a lot of people just, they make mistakes on, and it ends up costing them the ability to stay in the business, and then they're getting out because they didn't do one of those things, properly. And, I think the same goes for, a lot of real estate companies teach the idea that your friends and family can give you, a certain number of transactions a year. And I always believe the numbers I hear some of the large companies say is way too high, because your friends know like 9 other realtors. When the market's hot, everybody gets a real estate license, and your friends know 9 other realtors, and you're brand new. They're not going to trust you. So, your lead generation strategy or how you're going to generate income cannot just rely solely on beating up your friends and family. That, or you'll lose your friends and family. So, you can certainly rely on that a little bit, but you've got to have another way to generate business.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I mean, it was awesome. There's so much great stuff in there. So
cool. Glad to do it. Appreciate it.
I really want to thank Andrew for joining us today, and make sure to check out the episode description for links to the Duncan Duo social media profiles, YouTube page, and radio show. And once again, if you think you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.